Okay, we're moving along with 9.6, where we're going to start factoring where we do not have a as 1. So that's what you had yesterday. So look here, now starts with 2. So we're going to need some practice. It's all about practicing. The more you practice, the better you're going to get at it. Let me turn this slightly here. Okay, so 2x squared minus 7x plus 3. So now we have to find factors that multiply together to give us this. Now 2 is a nice way to start because it is a prime number. So 2, the only choice for 2 is 2 times 1. Agreed? There is no other choice. That's what we call a prime number. And I told you anytime they have a prime number, that helps to factor. So x squared we know is just x and x. So instead of just being x and x, we're going to say 2x times 1x. We don't write the 1. We understand that 2 and this is 1. 2 times 1 give me the 2. That's the only choice we have for that. They made it kind of nice again because 3 is prime. The only choice for 3 is 3 times 1. Alright, but before I go ahead and do that, I need to go back and remember what are my signs. So this tells me same signs, then this tells me what they're both going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in because they're both the same. But what's going to be important is where I place the 3 and where I place the 1. Or this might be the 3 and the 1, but only one of them is correct because I need to make a -7. Alright? So let me go ahead and just fill in. I want to kind of do it incorrectly first. I'm going to put a 1 and a 3, and I'm going to show you why that's not correct. So you know that 2x times x gives me the first part, okay? And -3 times -1 gives me the last part. But what needs to happen is that I have to have a -7. So you always find that by the by the outer terms and the inner terms. So 2x times -1 is -2x, and -3 times x is -3x. When I add -2 and -3, I get -5. So is that what I'm looking for here? No. So you can see that if you don't place them in the right way, and you don't get the correct factors, then it's not going to work. So we're going to start again. I'm going to show you correctly. 2x and x, that was fine. The 2 minuses were fine. Instead of 1 and 3, that means the 3 has to be here and the 1 has to be here. So let's check. The outer 2x times -3 is -6x. Then -1 times x is -x. And when you add them together, you get -7x. So that is the only way that this is correct. There's only one way that everything factors. You don't have 2 and 3 choices. So let's try another one. This is all about just practicing. 3n squared plus 14n minus 5. So of course it's in descending order. It has to be like that. The x squared, the x, but here it's an n squared, n, and the constant. So then I make my 2 factors, and 3 again is prime, so they've made it nice. What's my only choice for 3? 3 times 1, so it has to be 3n times 1n. That's my only choice here. Okay. Then I look and see what are my signs going to be. A minus here tells me that they're going to be opposite signs. One will be a plus and one will be a minus. So I'm going to put that there. I'm not going to put the signs in yet. Then my last factors are made up of 5, and that is prime. It's 5 and 1. That's my only choice, so that's good. But where I place it is very important. Only one way is going to give me the 14. So 3 times 5 is 15, and 1 times n, 15 and 1 will give me the 14. So I put the 5 here and the 1 here. So I need to make a plus 14. So 15 is bigger than 1, so 3 times 5, that's going to be a plus 15, and this one's going to be a minus 1, so check. 15n minus 1n gives me 14n, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. So you have to check until you get more proficient at it, but even me, I do a quick check and I know if it's right or wrong. And the more that you do this, the more comfortable you're going to get. So let's go ahead and try one more. So let's try 2h squared plus 13h minus 7. Okay, so I'm going to put the 2 factors. So I know that 2 is prime, so it can only be 2h and 1h, and I don't need to write the 1. Here, opposite signs, one's a plus and one's a minus, but I got 7. 7 is only 7 times 1. There are no other choices. Excuse me. Where I put the 7 and the 1, that's what's important. So I'm going to put the 7 here and the 1 here. Excuse me, I just drank something. So 2 times 7 is 14, and then 1 times h is going to give me the plus 13 that I'm looking for. So this is a plus, and this is a minus, and that is the only way that that is going to factor. So take a look at that and see how I got the signs. Alright, we're going to move on then, and let's factor when we have a negative. And I've already introduced you to this a little bit. I did it on one of the problems. So one of the rules when factoring is that a can't be negative, so I'm going to show you what I mean. So I'm going to show you how to factor a negative. There's an extra step you have to do. So I've got negative 4x squared plus 12x plus 7. So it is in descending order, so a cannot be negative. So you do a little trick. If it starts with a negative, you divide through by -1. And check too that there aren't any common factors. There's nothing else, so I'm going to divide everything by -1. When I do that, -1 comes out here, and now all the signs change. 4x squared plus 12x becomes minus 12x, plus 7 becomes minus 7. So now I'm dealing with positive. Alright? So now I can go ahead and I'm going to bring the -1. I'm not worried about that. And I'm going to put the 2 factors here. So remember, now I have choices. The first term's made up of multiplying these two to get 4x squared. So I can have a choice of 2x and 2x, or 4x and 1x. Okay? And that's why as you go on, sometimes it's good for sure to be working in pencil, because sometimes you have to erase. And it's called the trial and error. There are different ways to do this, but inevitably when you get into high school and especially college, they just use the trial and error really. So you want to be proficient with that. So just real lightly, because I don't know which one it is, I'm going to try the 2x and the 2x real lightly here. I know that they're going to be opposite signs. And 7, this and this is made up of 7 and 1. So let's try 7 and 1. And we don't know which one's positive, which one's negative. But potentially when we have 2 and 2, we don't have to change them because they're both the same. So let's try real quick if I put a 7 and a 1. And I said 2 times 7 is 14 minus 2. So if I made this a plus plus 14x, and then I said minus 2x. That would give me 12x. Okay, am I looking for a 12x or am I looking for a negative 12x? I'm looking for a negative, so that let's flip this around. The bigger number should always be that sign. So let's try negative 14x plus 2x. So negative 14x plus 2x is negative 12x, so is that going to work? And yes, it will. So that means 2x times 7, it has to be a negative 14 and a plus 2. So my final answer is negative 1 times 2x plus 1 times 2x minus 7. Nothing else works but that combination. Now it does not matter if you wrote it like this. Understand this is the same because you've got the right numbers attached, the right factors, so they have the right signs here. So this and this are the same. That's not the issue. It's that you would swap the different signs would make it wrong. So whether you write it like the first or the second, both are correct. Okay, so let's try another one where they've given us a negative. I'm looking here in the back of the book at homework, maybe find something a little bit more. Okay, let's try this one. Negative 6k squared minus 13k minus 6. Let me lighten this up here. So this is going to be a pain in a way because 6 has 6 and 1 and 3 and 2, and you have this on both. So we're going to divide through by negative 1. Okay, so that's going to change it to a positive 6k squared plus 13k plus 6. Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to do. Then we know 6 can be 3 and 2 or 6 and 1. So I'm going to keep the negative 1 and I'm going to go ahead and try 3k and 2k. Now the good thing is both signs are the same and they're both plus, so I can put the signs in real quick. And let's see, I have a choice in the back of 3 and 2 again or 6 and 1. So let's try if I do a 3 and a 2. So that gives me 9k and that gives me 4k. Does that give me the 13k here? Sometimes you get lucky and the first choices you pick work. Sometimes they don't and you have to switch things around. That's why it's called trial and error. So this would be the correct answer. And you have to put the parentheses around, show the factors. So they only want you to factor. And you're not solving. They haven't given you an equal sign yet. So let's do one more. Just randomly, I'm going to pick one. So 3z squared plus z minus 14. Okay? So it's written in descending order. It does not have a negative, so I don't have to factor out a negative. So let's go back and see if you remember the rules. 3z squared, 3 is prime. It can only be 3z times 1z. So we're going to do that. The next thing is minus here means the opposite signs. One's a plus, one's a negative. 14 is 7 and 2, 14 and 1. That's my only choice. So I tend to go with the smaller one because I need to make a plus 1. So I'm going to work with this. If I put 3 times 7, I get 21. And 21 and 2 is not going to give me a 1. So let's switch it around. If I put a 2 and a 7, let's see if it's possible to make a 1. Here I've got a 6z and a 7z, and I can make a positive 1 from that. This is going to be plus and this is going to be minus. And then I've got a positive 1z. So that means my 6 is negative. My 7 is positive. So you can see that this is going to take some practice. So we're going to work on this for a little while because you really need to get good at it. And the only way is to honestly to practice on this. over and over again. And the more you practice, the more you're going to see, the better your guesses will be, and you'll just start getting better through practice. Just like anything else in life, right? You gotta practice. Okay. Real quick, I'm gonna look at 2 word problems, as they are in the book. An athlete throws a discus from an initial height of 6 feet and with an initial vertical velocity. So remember that formula we had? Okay, it's the same formula, all right? So an athlete throws a discus from an initial height of 6 feet and with an initial vertical velocity of 46 feet. So they want us to write an equation that gives the height in feet of the discus as a function of the time in seconds since it left the athlete's hand. So I remember watching this in the Olympics. These discus, they're really heavy, and they take them and they run, they swing around a few times and throw them, and it's I think I'd be lucky if it didn't drop on my foot. That's how heavy it is, but some of them can throw them quite a ways. So here we go. We have the formula just like I had shown you. We know here that the initial vertical velocity of 46 feet per second, so there's the 46 right there, and the initial height, so you're talking about a man, his height is 6 feet, so it's not coming from the ground, it's coming from a height of 6 feet, so you would put that in for S. So now you have height equals negative 16t squared plus 46t plus 6. So that's what they wanted in an equation. So it's just a matter of plugging in. So that's not a problem once they give you all the information. After how many seconds does the discus hit the ground? So where would the ground be considered? If the man's 6 feet tall, then the ground is the height, and that would be at what? 0, right? So you know the ground's at 0. So then you would go ahead and you would factor this. They've given you a word problem. So you set the height equal to 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 46t plus 6. So then we factor here, and so I know that I have to take a negative, but here I can also take a 2 out, so be careful, you've got to take out everything. So the greatest common factor is negative 2. When you do that, that's going to change. Negative 2 divided into negative 16 is 8t squared plus 46. Basically half of this is minus 23t. Half of plus 6 is minus 3 because we're dividing by a negative. Sorry about that. So then you have to factor, and they went and factored. The negative 2 is on the outside, don't worry about that. So it factored to 8t plus 1 and t minus 3. So 8 was 8 and 1, and 3 was 3 and 1. So you can check, because this gives me a negative 24, plus 1 gives me the negative 23. So negative 24t plus 1t gives me the negative 23t that you need to have here. So then you take each one and set them 0 and solve, because they want the actual time. They don't want the factors. If they're asking you to solve something or to give a time, you have to find that. So 8t plus 1 equals 0, solve it, and time equals negative 1/8. The other one is 3. But remember, we're talking about time. So instantly one of them needs to be rejected, because time, just like age, you can't be negative age, you can't be negative time. So negative 1/8 is rejected, doesn't make sense. But time equals 3, it means it takes him 3 seconds for the discus, and that's about right, because those things are super heavy. I couldn't even throw it. Never mind throw it in the air for 3 seconds before it hits the ground. So they throw it really fast, and it hits real quick because it's so heavy. Alright, so that's how we solve this word problem. And then here's a standardized test practice. So you might see something like this. So let's look at this. This one's not too bad. I don't think this is too bad at all. A rectangle's length is 13 meters more than 3 times its width. So I like to draw out a rectangle, okay? So the area is 10 square meters. So we know area is length times width. So a rectangle's length is 13 meters more than 3 times its width. So I'm going to call the width W, okay, just like they did. So the length is 13 meters more than 3 times the width. So 3 times W plus 13 meters more. So that's what that would be. And then this, if we were looking for perimeter, this would be, but we're not, we're looking for area, which is the length times the width. So you're going to take 3W plus 13, the length, times the width, is equal to 10. Did they not say that it's equal to 10? Right now the area is 10 square meters. So you can see that this is a quadratic. When you multiply it out, you get 3W squared plus 13W equals 10. But then you want to set this to equal to 0 because we need to solve and find the width. That's what they're wanting. Okay, so here 3, I like it, 3W and W, that's my only choice. The minus at the end here is what I'm looking for. It tells me one sign will be plus, one sign will be minus. And my choices for 10 are 10 and 1 and 5 and 2, but I need to make a 13. So 5 and 2, that's 15, and 2 will give me 13, but I need a plus 13. So plus 15 minus 2. So 3W minus 2 equals 0. 3W equals 2. I need to expand this a little bit. So even though they did it, I'm showing you. So W equals 2/3. And this one, W plus 5, I'm going to reject this because like time, a width of any shape can't be negative, so you reject that. So the width is 2/3. If they asked for the length, you would plug in 3 times 2/3 plus 13. So you're looking for a choice of 2/3 meters, so there it is. So A is your choice. All right? So this is a big lesson, and it is a big concept, and we have to understand it. So hopefully these videos help. God bless. We're going to be moving on to 9-7 in a while once we have this down. Okay, bye guys.